Welcome to the Immigrant Entrepreneurs Podcast, Episode 3. My name is Lena Warwick, and today I'm so honored to chat with Dr. Luis Velasquez. In this episode, he talks about the different ways he had to reinvent himself over and over to get to where he's at right now. This guy's no joke. He's went through several brain tumors, ran a bunch of marathons, Ironmans, and ultra marathons, traveled the world to now holding a strong and successful business. Although Luis's parents didn't provide him with a lot of entrepreneurial advice, he did learn something extremely valuable from his dad's journey that magnified Luis's entrepreneurial ventures. In this episode, we wrap up with Luis giving us 3 secret success tips that any immigrant entrepreneur should know when starting their businesses. So let's get right to it. I have the honor to bring on Dr. Luis Velasquez, who has founded Velas Coaching. Velas Coaching is a Silicon Valley-based company with global consulting and executive coaching expertise. So, Dr. Luis, are you ready to roll?
I am ready to roll, but I think that you should stop calling me doctor and just call me Luis.
I want to respect and honor that. I'll go ahead and call you Luis from now.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's go back to the very beginning. Please tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born and when did you come to the States?
So I was born in Central America, in Guatemala specifically. Was born in a high up in the mountains from a family that was, farmer family, a family that had little means, economical status, let's put it that way. I grew up in a town high up in the mountains, as I mentioned, and in a time that was very violent. We had a lot of political violence back then. Guatemala had a very brutal and bloody civil war for a few years. The area, my whole area where I used to live, was at the center of the unrest and violence. And so I grew up in those conditions. And to tell you the truth, I remember having a happy childhood. So despite all of the things that were going at the time, I really had a happy childhood. My parents were very, loving, and even though we didn't have a lot, what we had was enough. We made it work, and so to me, it was kind of like, oh, this is the way the world is. I didn't know any better, and it wasn't until I came to the States in oh my gosh, it's been such a long time ago. I graduated from high school in 1987, and I came to the United States in 1988 on a scholarship to learn English and get a university degree. At that time, it was just an associate of science or associate of arts. When the Civil War was about to end, the United States had some sort of a scholarship foundation, and they were bringing students from those areas that were hit by violence to the States so they can have a glimpse of what was possible and to see that things weren't as we lived back in Guatemala. And it actually did change my life. When I came here, I realized that the way I was living, or the way we were living, wasn't normal. And it gave me a glimpse of what is possible. What could I do? So I did my 2 years here, and I went back home. As part of the scholarship package, I had to go back home and study and stay there for about 3 years or so. But once I went home, I realized, oh my gosh, there is another world out there that I need to explore, and I need to go and check it out, and I need to succeed. So with that in mind, I went back and I started looking for ways to get back to the States, which I found another way. I got another scholarship, and I went to Florida A&M University in Florida. Yeah.
let me just ask one thing. Were you born into the civil war that was happening in Guatemala, or did it kind of happen? And how long was it going on for?
The war lasted about 30 years, around
Three
something around
years.
those lines. But in the late 1970s, early 80s was when it was it was brutal back then.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember, but all Central America was in war, and the Iran-Contras situations, the Cold War. The Cold War, the United States and Soviet Unions never shot a bullet to each other, but the battlefields were in Latin America, and so we were like proxies for that war. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I hear so many stories from immigrants that they are escaping poverty to come to the States or for better opportunities, but you were just in the middle of violence. And you guys were probably just coming out of a very, very critical situation out there. So how old were you when you came to the States?
I was 17, so I finished high school at 16, and then I moved here on 17 on a scholarship, without any English at all whatsoever. And I attended a community college and lived with a host family to learn English and get an associate of science in food science. Actually, that was the thing. So that
So
was,
you
yeah.
came by yourself?
I came by myself. Well, there was a bunch of us, but I was the only one from my hometown. Actually, there were two Guatemalans only. There were others. There were a couple from Honduras, a couple from Panama, a couple of other people from Costa Rica. So if you think about Central America, it's such a small land that it was very violently shaken in the 70s and 80s.
Okay, so let's talk about the struggles that you had to go through when you first immigrated to the States. And you've already mentioned one, which you had no English and you just came to the States at 17 and you had to learn English at college already.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that, one thing that what is the word? One thing that I always like to read. Reading is a passion of mine. I still read a lot. I remember my mom, used to give us some books to read at home. And then at night, sometimes she will actually come home, enter a room and steal the books away from us and turn off the lights. Otherwise, we will read all through the night.
I
So
love it. I
I
love
had
it.
that habit, let's put it that way. So when I came here, I remember going to the library of that community college, and I look at the library and I said, I am going to find the thickest book that I can find in that shelf, and I'm going to read it. And I found the thickest book was The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, wow.
It was huge. And I said, this is the book that I'm going to read. And that's how I decided to learn. I learned to read much faster than speaking. I read first, and then I understood the spoken, English second, but the speaking came much slower. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a very smart strategy, though.
Yeah. It's one thing that I do, and I've been doing all my life, is I try to say that my language is pain and suffering, because that's what I do. I try to find the hardest thing that I can do, and I just go do it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your family. Did your parents have any entrepreneurial experience? Did you get any advice from them?
No, not at all. As I said, my father was a truck driver. And as a truck driver, he had to travel, the city, moving goods from one city to the next. And then he had an accident. And he was in a wheelchair for about 2 years. And but something remarkable happened. When he was in recovery, he was thinking, I'm gonna have my own business. I am going to, I'm gonna make someone out of myself. My mother and I, were thinking, how are you going to do that? I mean, you're in a wheelchair. You cannot even walk. You're a truck driver. But he said, nope, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it. And he actually did it. He started his business with a table, a scale, a few knives, and a few chicken meat. And he started selling chicken meat by the pound. And
Wow.
then all of the sudden, I mean, a few years later, he actually made it. Now he's an incredibly successful entrepreneur in Guatemala. Just to give you a, like a level of success that he had. When I was growing up and I asked for a bicycle, he couldn't buy me one. He said, no, we cannot do that. My youngest sister, when she was ready to go to college, he bought her a brand new car and basically a house in the city so she can actually live there. And to me, the difference of buying power and means is it was incredibly different from where I grew up. So I guess to your question, did he give me advice? No, I think that what he gave me was inspiration.
That's so powerful. That's amazing. And I'm sure there's so much value in that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So before you tell our listeners about your company, tell me about the path that you took. Did you try going into any other fields before starting your business? And I know you've had some turbulences in your journey. So feel free to share whatever it is that you want to.
Yeah, so as I said, I came back to the States and then I had finished my bachelor's and then I was doing, dishes in a lab, washing the glassware and I was promoted really quick to media making because I keep crashing all the dishes. But I really like the science, So my professor, the professor that I was working for, he mentioned that if I wanted to do a master's in his lab, and I am like, absolutely, I would love to do that. And so I did a master's there. And when I finished my master's, a few universities reached out to me because of the research that I was doing and recruited me to continue a PhD. And so I visited a few universities, and I finally settled to go to Michigan State University. And so I got a PhD in botany and plant pathology. Now, if you tell me botany and plant pathology, well, you must have a lot of plants in your house. No, I don't. I never worked with plants per se. I work a lot with genes and chemistry and biochemistry. So I graduated 2002 with a PhD in botany and plant pathology. I also marry in the process. I marry a wonderful, beautiful woman. And then when I graduated, my goal was I wanted to become a professor. And I got my wish. I actually was hired as a visiting assistant professor at Michigan State University. And I was in my first year as a professor when I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Needless to say, things didn't turn out well for me the way I wanted it. Like if you think about that, sometimes, you feel people we think that we have a mate. And in my case, it wasn't the truth. It wasn't that way. So I survived the tumor, but neither my professional dreams nor my marriage. So then, I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was, basically, I hit rock bottom because the only thing that I could do, I couldn't do anymore, And so I studied so long to be a professor and become a PhD. And then all of a sudden, I just couldn't even remember my mother's name when I came out of surgery. So I decided, I started thinking about what else could I do, and I reinvented myself a couple of times over. One thing that I realized is that all the important moments and the pivotal moments in my life have been catalyzed by one person. Either that person gave me an opportunity, or that person, gave me a challenge of some sort. In that regards, one person, gave me an opportunity to reinvent myself. And I became an HR person. Now, why I became an HR person? Because my ex-wife and I used to be in school together, And we used to discuss her papers. And when we separated, she left her books at home, and her books were in HR. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read those books. I'm gonna get used to this, and that's how I decided I'm gonna be an HR.
Wow.
And with that, and I went to the Middle East. I moved to Saudi Arabia to start my career there, because this person, that I was mentioning, he said, I'll give you an opportunity, but it's good news and bad news. The good news will hire you. The bad news is that you move into Saudi Arabia if you want it.
And this is doing HR?
Yes, so I
Okay.
went there, and as I said, all that I could do was, I read some books about HR and employee engagement, which is what they asked me to go do. And in the process, I read a lot, and I used Google. Google became my best friend, and somehow I was able to manage and get the things done that I was given, the task that I was given. And with that, I traveled the Middle East. I traveled all the Middle East, and I traveled Sub-Saharan Africa doing HR and coaching. And I moved to move back to the States in 2007, and still with the company. And in the process, the other thing that I realized, as I mentioned, one thing that I do is I try to find things that are difficult and I just go do them. The doctor, when he told me that I probably was not going to work anymore or walk straight anymore, so I decided, well, I'll show him. And I started
That's a
to.
challenge.
Yeah, as a challenge, it's like, hey, the one thing that I found, at least for me, is the biggest satisfaction that I get is when people tell me that I cannot do, and I'll go do it. And so he said, you probably won't walk straight anymore. And since then, I've run over 100 marathons, and I've done several, many ultra marathons, some at the 100-mile range, and I've done
Wow.
several Ironman triathlons as well. But so in 2012, I just finished running my one of my best races. It's 100 miles. You probably heard it. It's called the Western States 100. It took me 28 hours to finish it.
Wow.
And I went to visit the doctor, my neurosurgeon, and the doctor, he came in and he said, where is the patient? And I am like, I'm the patient. And he said, no. And I said, what do you mean, no? I said, well, I saw the films, and the person that I was expecting to see is a person that I was expecting to have several serious neurological problems.
Wow.
I don't see any of you on you. And I'm like, well, I'm okay. I'm here for a routine checkup. And I said, well, this is far from routine because you have a big ticking bomb in your head. And he couldn't believe that, that I was there standing with that big tumor in my head again. And so he asked me, so what have you been doing? And I said, I've been running. And so what he said is, wow, that's remarkable, because I think that your body has adapted. Because then you're in such a good health and such a good shape. But having said that, we need to cut this thing again. And I am like, oh my gosh, not again.
Wait,
But
so we came back?
yeah, it came back.
Wow.
And so in 2013, by the way, I just, at this time I'm already, married again with this an amazing woman. And then this time, she didn't leave me, which is great. But my job didn't last. So when I came back from the tumor and the surgery, I decided, okay, so what am I going to do now? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to find my own way, and decided to found my company then. Actually, this is my third company. So before I did a consulting company, a fitness consulting company. I didn't have the right partner, so I sold it. Then I decided to go into another one, but I wasn't the right person to do it. I didn't have enough help. I had money, and I completely wasted the money thinking that I could do this on my own, and it didn't end up well. Let's put it that way. So I bankrupt, and then I decided to do this third company now that I'm operating successfully, without taking money from anybody, and just do like a small a step growth as opposed to trying to grow as fast as I can with money that is not mine.
Tell me what was that? I'm really interested to hear that deciding factor when you got out of surgery and the doctor said, you got to lay low and take it easy. I mean, that's ultimately your health. And how did you take that risk and say, I am taking my body in control and I'm going to start doing all of these marathons and triathlons and ultra marathons? So what was that deciding factor for you?
Well, I've been thinking about quite a bit. And if you think about this, I mean, one thing that gives us meaning and gives us sometimes, the idea that we're succeeding in life is succeeding. When we're not successful and we're not succeeding, we start, making stories in our heads about ourselves. So I needed to find a way to feed, I want to say, not feed my ego, but feed my auto-esteem or my self-confidence by just making taking small wins. Let's put it that way. And so I didn't start running ultra marathons from the start. When I remember, the first thing that the therapist told me is that you have to run 2 times a day, or actually walk 2 times a day. And then I said, okay. So I ran I walked the morning and the afternoon. So I used to, that's where I am. I tend to do more than I am told to, or what is expected of me. But my goal is to get those small wins. That okay, I did this. So what is next? What is next? What is next? And that's a slippery slope, of success. Let's put it that way. So for me, like, oh my gosh, I can do 2 runs at 5 miles. Now I can do 10 miles. I'm going to do a marathon. God, did a marathon, did a couple of other ones. So now what is next? It's a 50K. All right, let's do a 50K. Let's do a 75K, let's do like 100 miles. Okay, what is next? Okay, let's do an ultra marathon, like let's do 2 more. So, but the point that I'm trying to make is that it's about, feeding my self-confidence by celebrating the small wins. Small
I like that.
Things make a big, they have what I call an additive effect on how you feel about yourself.
I love that. That's so powerful. So tell us about your company and what it does.
So as I said, coaching found me in the Middle East. When I moved to the United States and I was let go of the company, I decided to found my company. Okay, so let's put it this way: what I do is known as leadership and executive coaching, because that's the name that is given, But I do more than that. Let's put it that way. My goal is to accelerate the learning of the people that I work with. Accelerate the learning so they can change, adapt, and grow and thrive. That's what I do. I work with very successful individuals that are on a quest to to get better. I work with individuals sometimes that are questioning if that's all they got, when the reality is that the sky is the limit. We just need to find a way to make it work. So I call myself a
genius.
No. I call my goal, or my why, let's put it that way, or the things that I do are driven by my need to reframe the important moments so we can adapt and thrive. And the way I see this is that in order to act differently, we need to think differently. And we need to in order to think different, we need to see differently. So sometimes, people see things from one perspective. And my goal is to go and offer a different perspective. So when they see things from a different perspective, they're going to think differently and they're going to act differently. And that's what I do in a nutshell.
Awesome. And so what do you mean by a coaching found you in the Middle East? Is this when you were doing HR or the business that you were doing before that?
No, that was on HR, so
HR.
As I said, I was my task was doing employee surveys. That's what I did. And I was sitting on my office one day when the HR VP of the company that I was consulting with came in, and he said, Luis, I am doing a presentation. Can you help me? And I said, sure, I can help you. So I went and we talk about things and I help him. And then a couple of days later, he came back. He said, hey, I'm doing this. Can you help me? Sure. And then all of a sudden he said, I have these other people. Can you help them too? And I said, sure, I help them. And then all of a sudden, I was doing more of that. And the company that I was working for said, okay, if you remember in 2005, 2006, we have the financial downturn and the financial crisis, and consultants were the first ones to go. Wow. And so my company saw this. Oh, you're coaching. You're a coach. All right, you're a coach. And they started to advertise me and to offer my service as a coach. And so that's how I found coaching. Let's put it that way. So my style of coaching is different from the traditional coaching. My path to coaching is different. Let's put it that way.
And how old were you when you started your very first company?
I was, let me see. So I had my brain surgery in 34. So I was 40 something, mid 40s.
Mid 40s.
41,
okay.
42. Yep.
Okay. And then how long have you had Velas Coaching so
Velas
far?
Coaching was founded in 2013.
Amazing.
And it wasn't all happiness at the start. At the beginning, as you can think, there is a lot of what is the word that I'm looking for is ups and downs. It's a slow start. But here is one thing that I learned doing these ultra marathons is that there are actually 3 things that will kill any race that you do. It doesn't matter what race or what length. It doesn't matter if it is an athletic race or is as a business race or whatever. Pacing, nutrition, and taking care of your feet. So this is how I translate it. Pacing is sometimes people want it now. I mean, you have to be patient. You have to be patient and you have to take one step at a time. I guarantee you that all these incredible success stories, like let's think about, Facebook. I am sure that Mike Zuckerberg never thought I am going to build the biggest company, internet company, social media in the world. His mission at the beginning was just to connect the people at the university. So many of entrepreneurs and many people that I work with, they have these big visions. And when they have big visions, it's very disappointing sometimes because it takes a long time or they never get there. And that is related to pacing, just taking one short step at a time. So
small wings, right?
Small wins.
That's right.
Nutrition. When I say nutrition is you have to eat right. And in the entrepreneurial world, the way I see it is that the more you know, the better you are there. The better you make decisions. The more feedback you get from people, the more you research what you're trying to do, your clients, here is one thing that I've seen so many times over and over and over again. Entrepreneurs, think I am going to make this incredible product and they don't ask anybody if this is the right product, even if the product is going to be liked. So they spend so much time on building the perfect product and then nobody buys it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So nutrition to me is about getting feedback and pivoting immediately. And the other thing that I mentioned is taking care of your feet. When you run, I mean, if you have a blister and if you don't take care of your blister, you're gonna have a hard time. And the way I see it, it's like you get a little success and then all of a sudden you start like wasting your money on a better office, on a bigger car, and all of that stuff. So it's about taking care of your resources and spending them wisely. So that's the way I see it.
That's very, very powerful advice that I'm soaking in. So thank you so much for sharing that. Did you have a mentor before you started your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. And, I think, as I mentioned, I started looking at all the pivotal moments of my life. And I can guarantee, and I can actually pinpoint pretty much with certainty that it was catalyzed by one individual. Now, if you think about that, there are many mentors and there are many people that catalyze different things throughout my life. But that gave me a lot of thinking. And I think that there are four relationships that we all should have. Number one is the mentor. And I have had many mentors over the course of my life, let's put it that way. But also I serve as a mentor to other people, because if you want to master something, the best way to do it is by teaching it to somebody else. So I have mentored a few coaches, and few have become very successful. Let's put it that way. No, I'm not saying just because of me, but it has helped me to realize what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So mentor, mentee. The other two relationships that I treasure tremendously is what I call my running buddy. A person that I can, that I sometimes, that the two of us can do things bigger and better things. If you think about, the Google guys, Sergey and what is the other name? This is a perfect way of defining, the partnership. And the other relationship that I treasure is the competitor. Now, the competitor, not to have what he has or she has, but also to see what he's doing or she's doing, so I can actually do it myself as well or better. So it's not just a mentor, but I surround yourself with all those four relationships. Mentor, mentee, who's your running buddy and who you're competing against. So that's how I try to to characterize and to categorize my relationships.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So, how do you look at failure and how do you overcome failures?
Failures. Define failure for me.
Okay, so you said you went through a bankruptcy, right?
Yep.
Do you think that is a failure to you?
I don't think it's a failure. I think that it's an opportunity for change and growth.
Yes.
And
I love it.
And the reason why, I say that is because there are two outcomes. Either I win or I learn. And the reason why I say that, because if I categorize as a failure, if you remember when we were talking about why I started running, is because I take care. We as humans, we're very emotional, let's put it that way, and we are attached to our emotions. So I stay away from words that potentially can keep me down. I start using them as a way to justify things.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started running, as I said, I was looking for the little wins. Mm-hmm. When I failed, I was like, okay, so I failed, so it's over. What did I learn? So I won't repeat it again. So the whole idea of failure is how you see it. Mm-hmm. And how I see it is an opportunity for me to grow and learn and pivot. Let's put it that way.
And a lot of times when we come out of our failures, we learn so much and we become extremely powerful from those failures.
Absolutely. If you think about this, if you look from the perspective of me achieving my dream of a professor, I am an absolute failure. I didn't get there. I absolutely, and but I see how I am, where I am now as a result of that failure, and I wouldn't change anything in the world, even the brain tumor.
You're still a professor because you're mentoring, you're coaching. That is your expertise. So you're still a professor if you think about it.
Well, thank you for feeding my ego.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that we've talked about the failures. We've talked about a lot of your turbulence that you went through. What are some maybe business accomplishments or just achievements that you can think of right now to share with our listeners?
Oh my gosh, let's see. So let's talk about that for a minute. And I think that, the entrepreneurial, and especially we're talking about people that are coming to this country and trying to succeed. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the things that I am really, really, really taking into big consideration, is that me comparing myself to others is not going to take me anywhere. And what I'm saying right now is that if I can come in with a list of incredible accomplishments, but that doesn't mean anything to people, to them. That doesn't mean, like what I like to see, what I want to see is what success means to you. And to me, success means that I'm living what I call my purpose life. And my purpose is not, it doesn't have a bank account number. Let's put it that way. But that is what success is for me. You see what I mean? I live a life where I am always helping others. Coaching is an incredible opportunity for me to help others to succeed. And that to me is the biggest accomplishment that I have. And again, that is not attached to a number. Does that make sense?
You're extremely humble. And I love it. I love it.
So it's not what I have done, because it is not, it is what I can do. And that is one thing that I, just talking about, entrepreneurs and talking about immigrants, I've seen a lot of my friends, people coming, and they were doctors and they were lawyers and dentists and successful people in other countries. And they come here and people, they expect to have the same success, and it's not possible. You see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden they get disappointed. It's just horrendous. And I think that is the mindset of what got you there won't get you to the next level. What got you here won't get you to the next level. And I think that the way I see myself is success is not based on what you've done, but what's your potential. And what are you going to be? What can you do with what you learn?
So interesting. I'm taking so many notes. Is giving back, either volunteering your time or giving back to the community, something that is part of your business values?
Totally. Yep. Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I mean, it's so here is another component of that. The way I see it is not doing extra. You see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna spend this money on, or I'm gonna do this to help others. I think that my modus operandi, or the way I do things, is that my whole business is about giving back. You see what I'm saying? So it's not about, like I'm gonna make $1 million and then I'm gonna spend, $100,000 and giving back. I think that the way I see it is that, my whole business is about giving back. My whole business is about helping others. And I gotta tell you the truth, I hope that people don't use this when they're negotiating with me. When we're talking money, I said, I hope that money is not an impediment for us to work together. So in other words, I give them a prize, but if that is a problem, we'll find a way. And that to me is a way to give back. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm not getting out of the way to give back, even though I do. But I think that the way I operate my business, and I hope that that's the way I keep doing it, and it's about my whole business is about giving back.
That's amazing. I love it. So what are some things you would advise the next aspiring immigrant that wants to start their own business that's listening to you right now?
So I read not long ago, I read an article about what makes groups of immigrants successful in this country, and they had particularly they were focusing on Jewish immigrants and Nigerians. Those two groups seem to be the more successful in the United States, according to this article, Nigerians and Jewish. And so they started to try to figure out what was special about these two groups. And they found three things. Number one is that they have a sense of superiority. In other words, these are people that are very highly educated, or they know what they bring to the table. You see what I'm saying? They come here and they were successful where they were before, and now they're coming here and they have a high value of themselves. Let's put it that way. The other component is about a sense of insecurity. So in other words, they know what they're successful, but navigating this country is new to them. So they're always insecure. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? And the other component is in feedback. In other words, they ask for feedback all the time. How am I doing? What else can I do? How else can I do it? You see what I'm saying? And I realized that, looking at myself and looking at other people, those are the three things that I can see in successful immigrants. Individuals that come and they say, I know what I am worth and I know that I can do this. But we have a sense of insecurity. Am I doing it right? But at the same time, we look for feedback from others. How am I doing? When those three things are aligned, those people are going to be successful. And what I've seen many times with, even when I came in, to tell the truth, I knew that I was, that I had something to offer to the world, and I had incredible insecurities, but I didn't ask people, so I couldn't get any feedback because I wasn't seeking it. So in other words, and I see this with many of the people that I coach as well, and I tell them, this is a mental model that I have, is the successful individuals they know what I bring to the table. They are insecure. They have some level of insecurity, and that level of insecurity will allow them to start seeking advice and seeking feedback from others. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'm going to wrap up with these short, super, super fast questions, if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. What time do you normally start your day?
I get up around 5:30 a.m.
5:30?
5:30, 6
Okay.
6 o'clock is a little late, but yeah, between 5:30 and 6.
Okay. How many employees do you have?
Full time we have 3, but I work with a bunch of other coaches on a 1099 basis. So I think, I don't know, we're like 25 or so at the moment.
Awesome. How often do you watch TV in a week?
I watch TV probably once a week on Sunday evenings while folding the clothes of my children and spending time with my wife.
Awesome. How many hours of work do you normally put in?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but I don't work. I have fun, let's put it that way. But
how many hours of fun do you have?
so I start my day, I sit in my office from 8:30 to 1:30. And that's where I try to do all of my work. And then from 1:30 to 5:30, I take over my my domestic duties as a co-parent. So I spend the afternoon with my children and we play. And then from 5:30 to 7, we serve dinner and all that stuff. And then at 7, I sit on my desk and finish my other day until probably midnight.
Wow. You have a lot of hours of fun.
I do. But I don't, that's one thing that I enjoy what I do, so I really do. I really do, and it's a blessing to be working in something that I really enjoy doing.
Awesome. Last question. What is your favorite food?
Oh my gosh.
I got you.
I have so many favorite foods, but if I were to pick one, I think that I go in waves, to tell the truth. I can see myself liking certain foods for a long time. Right now I am into sushi. We have sushi every Thursday. That's our sushi day. I love sushi. Yeah. So right now it's sushi.
Awesome. I love it. Luis, thank you so, so much. I'm so honored to have you on the show. And you are a true inspiration to all the immigrants listening to you. You had such a story. You've gone through several brain tumors and you've come out victorious. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to take some time out of your busy life and coming on my show.
Thank you, Alina. Bye bye. You, Alina. Bye bye.